But I want to welcome you all to this research portion of the event. For the next 10 minutes or so, Naomi and I will guide you through our research and our results. Our project began really with two Supreme Court cases. One was the Caperton versus Massey case, followed by, as President Wallerstein noted, the Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission case. In particular, it was Citizens United that allowed corporations, among others, to participate more fully, both overtly and covertly, in the election process that propelled our work. Good corporate governance, which is the focus of the Robert Zicklin Center, calls for, at a minimum, some level of transparency. And so we sought to measure the transparency of companies on this issue. We define corporate political disclosure as the company's volitional communication to shareholders and stakeholders of corporate information, which includes resource expenditures, policies, procedures, and governance, relevant to corporate support for political activities, candidates, campaigns, causes, ballot measures, and so on, through either in-kind or monetary expenditure. In the current U.S. institutional environment, mechanisms for such activity include direct donations or donations via vehicles such as political action committees, trade associations, or commonly known as 501c6s, social welfare groups, 501c4s, and 527 committees. We began by building a list of items which rate corporations using the Corporate Board Handbook on Political Activity, and there are some copies available today. And we came up with a list of 57 items split along 3 dimensions. Each item is scored yes or no. We have 4 items by which we examine prominence or ease of access. How easy is it to find information on the corporate website? We selected the corporate website because that is really the primary means of communication today between corporations and their stakeholders. 25 items delineating governance mechanisms. So who makes what decisions, what monitoring systems are in place, and so on, those kinds of issues. Finally, 28 items looking at the actual disclosure of financial information. Who or what is supported, by how much, and using what mechanisms. The Baruch index is the sum of the number of items divided by the total number of items in our index, so divided by 57.
So we have 3 broad results that are takeaways. The first one is industry matters. The second is that approximately 22% of the S&P 100 disclose little or nothing about their expenditures. And finally, on average, the companies that contribute the most disclose less on average than other companies.
When we examine the results by industry, we find that pharmaceuticals, consumer products, and petroleum lead the way, and we have mining, manufacturing, and utilities lagging in disclosure on the political activities issues. The number at the end of each of these bars indicates the average score of companies in that industry. One interesting thing to note is that no industry as a whole has above a moderate score. No industry scored higher than 60%.
The results. We grouped the 100 companies into percentiles of 20%. And I'd like to point out our most transparent companies: Colgate-Palmolive, Goldman Sachs, IBM, Pfizer, Sara Lee, U.S. Bancorp, and Xerox. I also want to point out that companies denoted with an asterisk had no contributions at the federal or state level as reported by the Center for Responsive Politics and the National Institute on Money and State Politics. And you'll see that there are companies across the 5 categories who did not contribute at all. We
also looked at leaders in each individual category. These are companies that scored above 80% in each of these dimensions, and for these two dimensions, 25 and 28 items respectively. Again, we list them in alphabetical order. You'll note that these lists are not identical, and the companies that appear here do not necessarily appear in the final top category. Our industry, the top industry, pharmaceuticals and consumer products, is represented here by Pfizer and Colgate-Palmolive.
Our third dimension had to do with how easy it is to find the information on the website using either Google or the company's own search engine. This is a list of the 25 companies where it was very, very difficult to find information using either Google or the search engine. Again, this list is in alphabetical order. Now note that Sarah Lee is on this list even though it scored well in the other dimensions. It just took our coders a lot longer to find the information than it probably should have, given how transparent how much information the company does provide.
We also have 30 companies in the easy to find category. These companies scored a perfect 4 out of 4 possible items. What's interesting is, again, many of these companies are not leaders in the overall category, but they are leaders at least in telling us in terms of being able to find information very quickly and very easily on their websites.
Our final overall takeaway is that corporate political transparency tends to increase with corporate political giving to a point, and then it tapers off. On average, again, the companies that are contributing the most are actually disclosing less. An exception is Pfizer, who we welcome to our panel today. They are truly an outlier among the companies that are contributing. We have additional information about our results and our methodology on our Baruch Index website, which will be available after today's launch.
Last but not least, we want to acknowledge the people who made this very possible. First of all, the City University of New York and PSC CUNY for their support through the Research Award Program. We had tremendous cooperation from both Center for Responsive Politics and the National Institute on Money in State Politics in giving us data and access to their information. We have 2 outstanding researchers who worked with us, Louis Lapani and Vinnie Wong, and their support was very much appreciated. And last but not least, we want to thank our benefactor, Larry Zicklin, for his overall support in making this project happen at Baruch College and through the Robert Zicklin Center for Corporate Integrity. Thank you.